This is The Between, The King in Shadows, a special two-shot of The Between. Let's start by having us all introduce ourselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for folks watching the video to know about you. Your familiarity with the game or the hobby or whatever you want, doesn't really matter. I'll start though. My name is Jason. I use he, they. I am the creator of The Between, as well as the game from which it's derived, Brindlewood Bay. And I'm really excited to run this particular threat, which was written by my sort of gauntlet partner in crime, Alex Rabitsky. So I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Let's go over to Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack. Any pronoun is fine. And I'm really excited. I won't get into it too much, but this was the game that sort of brought me to the community, but also reignited my interest in TTRPGs. So I'm sort of a full circle moment for me right now. So I'm very excited.
Fabulous, thank you. Let's go over to David.
Yeah, my name is David, he, him. I'm very excited to get to play The Between for the first time and also to play a game with Jason for the first time, since We Hunt the Keepers was sort of my induction into the
Yeah.
PBTA dungeon world, etc. World.
You know, there's a whole extra season of that we have recorded and edited. It's just not released.
I tried to watch the unedited versions on YouTube, and it was just the pacing was just too slow.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I recommend the edited one. Well, I keep saying, I've been saying for years now, we're gonna put it out. We just never have. Okay, let's go over to Jared.
Hello, my name is Jared Leopold. Pronouns he, him, but whatever's fine. I am super excited to jump in. This is going to be my first experience within the Car from Brindlewood system. So I'm like, yeah, excited to check it out.
Fabulous. And finally, Hugo.
Hi, I'm Hugo. I use he and they, and I've run The Between a couple of times, but never played. So really excited to be playing.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to start with CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. The purpose of CATS is to establish some basic expectations for what this game is about and what we're going to be doing during this first session as well as next week for our second session. The concept. The Between is a tabletop role-playing game about a group of mysterious monster hunters in Victorian-era London. These monster hunters learn about various monstrous threats in the city and conduct investigations in order to neutralize those threats. Over time, they become aware of the plans of a criminal mastermind who is pulling the strings behind the scenes. The hunters will eventually be forced to confront this criminal mastermind in order to save Queen and country. The Between is directly inspired by the TV show Penny Dreadful, but also takes inspiration from British horror classics, the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, pulp-era media, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and From Hell. The game's mechanics are based on Apocalypse World and Brindlewood Bay. You don't need to know anything about those two games before we start playing. The aim. The aim of the characters in the story is to keep London safe by investigating monstrous threats and learning how to stop them. Our aim as players is to learn more about these characters' mysterious pasts, as well as to paint a vivid picture of our version of Victorian-era London, a responsibility we all share. The aims for today's session are to create and introduce our characters, learn the basics of how the game works by playing it, and then we'll have a little debrief at the end. Tone. The tone of The Between is dark, mysterious, and sensual. A little bit of levity or humor from time to time is good, but we will always strive to return to that dark, brooding place the characters exist in. Subject matter. Deep breath. Murder, cannibalism, body horror, dark sexual themes, erotic sensuality, threats to animals and children, foul language, blasphemy, witchcraft, and defiling graves and corpses are all things that can come up in this game. We'll talk about safety tools in a moment, but in the interest of setting expectations right now, you should know that this game deals with dark and intense subject matter. Speaking of safety tools, no game is more important than the people playing it. We're going to paint a dark, unsettling portrait of Victorian-era London, but we're going to do it in a way that respects everyone's boundaries of safety and consent. In order to do that, we'll be using 3 safety tools today. The open door policy, the X card, and roaming lines and veils. I'll talk about that in a moment. The open door policy is very simple. If you have to leave for some reason, you can. The X card, in the context of this call, basically, if something happens in the game that you find to be uncomfortable in an unfun way, you can say X card or type it in the chat and I will stop play. I might ask for clarification on what is being X carded so I can change it, but I won't ask why. Finally, we'll be using roaming lines and veils. Lines and veils generally, lines are things that we don't want to have in the game at all, and veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play them. I'm going to add the little roaming moniker to it because what I like for us to do is to sort of kind of rely on the X card more, and if we think that we're about to hit territory that we don't want to do, then we'll line it and veil it. I will say though that this particular threat does not have any like subject matter that stands out to me as far as like something to be mindful of. It's not like Figs Pigs, right? Where like like Figs Pigs, like there's so much like shit going on in that mystery, right? Or the Nutcracker. This one is much more just like, pretty straight Lovecraftian horror, and if you're okay with that, you'll be good. But I will start by roaming by saying I'm going to put sexual violence behind a line. I would prefer not to have that in the game. We're going to do character creation. So I want to just, before we do that, let me just share a few more details about the setting. These characters, the hunters, are the current residents of a place called Hargrave House. Hargrave House is a mansion on Belgrave Square in London. The people who live there share the common goal of defending the city from whatever dark forces are lurking in its shadows, be it monster or murderer. They operate outside official channels, frequently tackling cases that Scotland Yard can't or won't. Importantly, Hargrave House existed long before the characters took up residence there, and previous residents were doing the same work. By the time we join these characters, they've already been living and working together for a time. We don't dwell on how they came to live at Hargrave House, nor do we care much about who owns or funds Hargrave House. It's never been established. We may learn more about those things in the future, but for now, Hargrave House just is. Another thing to know is that these characters are to remain mysterious. We should avoid talking about their pasts, both in and out of character, unless we are prompted to do so by the game's rules. The reason we do that is because we want to learn about these characters as we play. It's a very cinematic sort of approach. If you compare it to like watching a TV show, a good TV show will not just tell you everything all at once, right? They will dole this stuff out, usually through flashback at dramatically impactful moments. I'm not going to summarize the playbooks. We can talk about that off call. But if there are no questions, we will pause the call to go ahead and make our characters. Okay, we have our hunters. We're going to go around the table, and everyone, when I call on you, please introduce your character by name, look, and vice, and nothing else. Actually, that's not true. You can tell us what your playbook moves do if you wish, but focus on name, look, and vice. I'll remind you that you should avoid sharing any details about your character's backstory at this time. We're going to go around again after that, but for now, let's just do the basics. So I'm going to go in the order of the sheet, starting with Jack's character. Who are you playing, Jack?
I'm playing the American, vivacious Vera Kaufman. Her look is hair and braided pigtails. She has a bolo tie with turquoise inlay and a 10-gallon hat with a feathers and rattlesnake tail. Her vice is Pharaoh, which is a card game. I have the two moves. First is the quickening, which we'll get into later, I'm sure. And then I picked as my additional move, Tall Tales. So I get to tell really elaborate out of pocket stories to try and get some benefits.
I love it. Her look is giving me like my dad is Lenny Kravitz vibes.
Yeah, it's very
that's like that's the vibes I'm getting from Vera Kaufman. I love it. Okay, let's keep going. We're not going with the factotum next. Let's go to Hugo's character.
I shall be playing the undeniable Andre Falcone. His look is blue-gray eyes, flawless skin, and Turkish-style pants. Vice is comforting the dying, and for move, I have picked the collection, which gives me stuff.
Oh, well, we shall learn about your collection as we go. David, tell us about your character.
Yes, I'm playing Josiah Pebble, he, him. His look is the vessel, short. He has short boots, an upside down Christian cross necklace, and a Puritan style bowl cut for his hair. And I chose as my custom move the ritual chamber.
Fabulous. And last and definitely least, let's go to our factotum. Go ahead, Jared.
A very fine, upstanding, older gentleman with a very thin mustache, pinstripe suit, and umbrella always on the ready. I follow around Hugo with utmost adoration. My move I took was the kind of the connections to the underground, so I can try and find some information. And also, I can't lay off betting. So I think me and the Vivacious will have a great time together.
Thank you, Burnright.
I
Now we're going to go
jump
back
in.
around.
I didn't mention my vice, which is Sunday morning mass.
Ah, very good. Yeah, thank you. The very definition of vice. Let's go back around. Now I'm going to read the color text at the top of your character sheet. Everyone else is going to pay close attention because after I'm done, we are going to say one thing that we think can be found in that character's rooms at Hargrave House, something they brought with them or something they have. It can be like a small object or item. It can be something more grand. I'm even open to something that's like a little strange and bizarre that doesn't seem like it would go in a room. But essentially, this is kind of functionally your character's equipment list. But I think it's best if you don't try to be practical about it. Like practical things are okay if that's all you can think of, but I think it's better if you go with something just completely oddball and weird. That's when it's best. So we'll start with the American, Vivacious Vera Kaufman. You grew up in a big city on the eastern seaboard of the United States, the scion of a prominent family. But you detested that life, the formality, the pretension, the venomous hypocrisy. And so you went west. You had adventures, got good with a gun, even joined a traveling show for a time. But then came the curse, and everything changed. You did your best to control it, and some nights were definitely worse than others, but eventually it got to be too much. Even your days were affected by the changes within you. Your behavior became reckless and unpredictable, and then you had to run far away. In the end, it was London calling, a thick, throbbing mass of humanity within which to lose yourself, the whole world and all its lovely pleasures right within your grasp. But the curse has found you like it always does. Hopefully these new folks, these hunters you've thrown in with, can help you for good, permanent like, when the time comes. And so the rest of us, Hugo, Jared, David, and myself, we each get to say one thing that we think can be found in Vera's rooms at Hargrave House. Whoever has an idea, go for it.
You have a fairly sizable collection of bolo ties that you're not quite sure where you got them, but you've got a good idea how you got them.
Intriguing. So go ahead and note that in your personal quarters.
All right.
Vivacious Vera has the bones of a 12-year-old child neatly stacked in a box.
Traveling
into it.
companion.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a map of the docks of London from when you arrived.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of secret underground places marked on it.
I'm going to give you a poster of from your short-lived traveling show featuring the Vivacious Vera Kaufman. You can make any little adjustments that you want on those, Jack, but if you're cool with it, we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Andre Falcone, the undeniable. You have always been the most beautiful person in the room. Your looks have opened doors for you for as long as you can remember. All the money and material things anyone could want laid at your feet. Artists have found inspiration in the brightness of your eyes, the delicate curve of your cheekbones, the plump softness of your lips. One such artistic work, a masterwork, rises above them all, for it captures the essence of you. It is, quite simply, more you than you. Lately, people sacrifice everything to be near you, to please you, and, if they're lucky, to touch you. But what to do when you get bored with being one of the gods? And so, what do we believe Andre Falcone has in his quarters at Hargrave House?
Hmm. How about
Also, I think this might be a good time to actually ask, just for out of character considerations, Hugo, what is your collection? What's the nature of it? So we don't give you more of that.
The collection has a number of like historical artifacts, I think, that I can pick.
That's what
Yeah.
it, okay, very good.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking
So
of
for the
a
first
different
one, I've
move.
picked Joan of Arc's Ashes,
Okay,
for
very good.
example, and I'm just looking forward to flipping stuff from history and
Okay,
using
good,
it.
good. Well, so we could probably lean into that too if we wanted. Okay, that should be fine.
Of course, yeah.
I'm sorry, who had an idea?
I was gonna go with like an Egyptian scarab beetle, like kind of an amber. But it sounds like you might already have that.
No, I don't think so.
I love
No.
it.
All right, well, there you
That's
go.
cool.
Enjoy.
I'm going to say that in a vial, you have what you claim to be, at least, the blood of a gorgon.
The blood of a gorgon. Nice.
You have a songbird in a cage.
You have suicide letters written by people who you rejected.
Awesome.
Let's go to Josiah Pebble. What a good name. I love that name the more I think about it. For as long as you can remember Josiah, dark entities have been near. They lurk just inside your peripheral vision, just at the mirror's edge. When you close your eyes, you can actually feel them. Their cold breath, their oily touch, an occasional feverish embrace. They want to be inside you. They want to rub against your guts and deposit their power inside you. Others are drawn to you as well, those who would use you to master these dark things in order to serve their own agenda. Some of these interlopers, these usurpers, can be of use, such as the hunters with whom you share home. Others, like the coven, are best avoided. In either case, you are no one's object, tool, or weapon. You are no mere bystander. Your fate is yours to shape. With that rather dark introduction, what do we suppose Josiah has in his personal quarters?
I think you have a hand of glory that you made from a dead relative.
Is that like a talk to me thing? What is the hand of glory? I don't know what that is.
It's usually like a dried or encased in wax hand of a criminal. But it's used in like different occult practices.
Oh, interesting. I love that. I've learned something new today. I'm going to say that you have a beating heart in a black box, a black lacquered box.
You have a ticket for an open invite to a famous seance
Oh, good.
woman in town.
Sorry, I froze for a second here. Can you repeat what you just said?
Sure. You have a ticket for an open invite to a seance to a famous
Medium.
seance person in town.
Well done, medium rare. Everybody know that joke from I Love Lucy? It's a great joke.
I want to give you a framed page from one of those handwritten books that monks do from a religious text. It's a page that was ripped out of one of those books and it's framed.
An illuminated manuscript.
Yeah.
Fabulous. These are great personal quarters items. Everybody's doing great. Finally, we'll go to Burn Right. Our factotum. You had a life before you entered the service of your employer, Mr. Falcone, but the details of that life are unimportant. All that matters now is the person you serve, Mr. Falcone, and Hargrave House, where you will grow ancient and die if you're lucky. More likely, your employer's colleagues, these hunters, will be the end of you. overturning things that should remain hidden and goading on terrors that dwell in dark places. You'll do your best to help them, of course, to keep them alive, because without them, what are you, really? What do we suppose can be found in Burnright's no doubt small corner of the servants' quarters downstairs?
I think that you have the contact of someone in London who is a part of the upper crust society, someone who's very wealthy and well-to-do. And it's sort of like I think it's just sort of like a contact for them, someone maybe that you know, but are sort of keeping a distance from for your own personal reasons. Maybe as to not make Andre jealous.
I think you have an IOU of winnings from the betting shop or from some bet that you took that you have not yet collected.
I think you have a dose of a rare and powerful drug contained in a triple locked box.
A walking stick from a former employer that has some sort of mystical pull that you have not yet quite deciphered.
Fantastic. And there's a space on the character keeper to note all these things down at the bottom, personal quarters section. Very good. Okay, that's good. Thank you, everyone. That was everybody, right? Yeah, okay. Now that we've met the characters, we're ready to play. We're going to take a break in a moment. I'm going to introduce the threat first. Does anyone have any questions before we do that, though? This two-shot is going to be a little different. We are not going to dwell on the mastermind aspects of the game too much. And structurally, it's going to be a little different. The night phase is going to function slightly differently than it does in a normal Game of the Between. I'm aiming for us to tell a quite complete story in this two-shot as much as we're able to. So, but with all that said, we shall begin. The King in Shadows. The King in Shadows, Act 1, in which the curtains rise and our cast come to the slow realization that they are stuck in a tragedy, and that the performance of a mysterious play is heralding the incursion of another world on our own. A round of applause is heard as the curtains rise. Everyone claps. Scene 1. It is day. The set of Hargrave House is bare, except for a single door and a lounge sofa. Our cast is fretting about. They move upstage as a table appears, laden with tea and... None of you are certain what just happened. As far as you all know, you went to bed. It was a restless night. And when you awoke this morning, all your actions felt strangely scripted. The feeling persisted throughout the early morning until you all sat down for tea. I shall direct the following to all hunters. Each of you experienced a vivid nightmare. in which you stood before a tall figure wreathed in shadows. Please describe one horrific, vulnerable, or terrifying experience you had within the dream as you auditioned for a place in the king's royal court.
I was sitting, just shining my shoes like I normally do in my tiny room at Hargrove, and I heard the summonings of Master Falcone, and I jumped to my feet, and he seemed quite distressed. So I tried to run to him, and I tried to find him, but there's too many doors. There's too many doors in this damnable house, and I could not find him. He kept shouting for my help, and then the voice stopped, and I could not find him.
Terror, indeed.
Josiah was on stage at the audition and read his lines, and every time he was told, no, do it again with new direction, over and over and over and over and over. And no matter how he did change his lines, there was an eternity of new takes and new directions.
Vera, in this dream, it didn't feel like a dream at first when she got up out of bed to go use the ladies' room, but as she exited her bedroom, she stepped out into the hall, and there were people there, a row of them, a line of them, and each of them had a dog on a leash. And as she walked past them, these people were talking to their dogs, sort of almost prepping them for what was to be an audition. And she got to the end of this line. She heard a voice call out, "Next!" And she was sort of ushered into this very large, dark room with a single spotlight. She could only see one other thing, and it was a white face on the other side of the room, just blank and expressionless. And she was unsure of what to do, but she felt something around her neck, and it was a collar. And she started hearing another voice. The voice that had called next started to say, "Now sit. No, okay, can you do a trick? Can you roll? Can you play dead?" And when she was asked to play dead, she felt her body succumb to some sort of cold feeling as she collapsed and awoke in her bed.
Andre Falcone is no actor. Andre Falcone does not audition. He performs, and thus he stood on the stage and he performed. And as he awaited the usual applause, instead, he heard laughter from the invisible audience viewing him. And with each laugh, his skin was pierced and bits of it fell to the ground, falling, cracking, until there was nothing. And then he woke.
Looking further into the matter, it appears you are not alone. A strange madness plagues London. Rumors describe mass delusions, hysteria, and disorientation among peoples of all classes. 2 individuals, artist Hypatia Quint and theater critic Larkin Creel, were both admitted to Bethlehem Royal Hospital recently following bouts of distress. Prior to his admittance to Bedlam, Larkin published a scathing review of a piece of experimental theater called The King in Shadows. The review is unforgiving in its criticisms, but it's clear that Larkin felt drawn, perhaps obsessed, to see the play again. However, the production doesn't stay in one place for long. Part of the play's allure is its sudden appearance at a new venue every few weeks. Those who wish to see must seek it for themselves. The play was last performed in the basement of Ranelagh Chapel in Sloane Square, just a stone's throw from Hargrave House. If you can find the play, maybe watching it can provide some insight into what's going on. And indeed, this is the order of the day. This game uses a procedure called questions and opportunities. Your goal is to investigate these questions, find clues, and eventually you'll come up with an answer. And once you have answered correctly, you will then pursue the opportunity. The first question is a very simple one. What signs precede a performance of the play, and where will it appear next? It is a complexity 2, about as easy as a question gets in this game. But it's very important because it allows you to discover the location of the play's new venue, at which point you will be able to watch the play in the upcoming night phase. You must discover where the next venue is going to be before we hit the night phase. And so time is of the essence. If you don't, bad stuff happens to London. So I will transfer all this information over to the character keeper while we're on break. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break so that I can do that and review the characters and stuff. And then we'll begin our investigation. See you in 10. Gameplay is phase structured, meaning we start in the day phase, which is where most of the game takes place. We'll eventually transition to the dusk in order to set up the night phase. We have a special night phase prepared, provided you all answer the question, where we will be watching the play, and then we'll have dawn, which is sort of the upkeep portion. But regular day phase is just like a regular role-playing game. We kind of follow the characters around as you begin your investigation, kind of doing whatever you want to do. I do think it would be nice to have all the characters together in the beginning, though. We have described you all at tea together, having become aware of all of this stuff going on and the involvement, the possible, very likely involvement of this play that's being staged somewhere in the city, and also the nightmares that you've had. So we'll build out the scene by I want to just ask everybody, just going around the table, like, what are you doing in this scene of everyone taking tea together? Well, the three of you and Burn, right? Off to the side, I suppose. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Yeah, Josiah is, as is his wont, is partaking in tea, but he is not actually drinking tea. He's just pouring the hot boiled water into a glass and sipping that straight. Even black tea with no milk and sugar is too adorned for his tastes. But as he drinks his literal hot water, he is shuffling a deck of playing cards and drawing out a card and then looking at it and then shaking his head and shuffling it back together and drawing out a card and looking at it and just repeating this. While he is humming to himself the snatches of the old Lutheran hymn, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God."
Josiah Pebble, fun at parties.
Yeah. I think Vera is going to be sitting across from him, and she's sort of, in contrast to this sort of austere presentation, she's got the sort of like Japanese kimono on. Her fingers are covered in rings. Her hair is in these sort of elaborate braids, which have beads in them. She's very vibrant, obviously, and she'll look at Josiah and go, "You usually put tea in your water. It gives it flavor."
Flavor is a distraction.
Oh, I don't know. I think after last night's sleep, I could use a bit of a distraction, personally.
There are distractions enough around us without adding to them.
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like that's a bit personal, and she sort of just adjusts her very vibrant kimono.
I ostentatiously do not look at Vera as she does this.
Where do we find Mr. Falcone or Falcone?
Mr. Falcone is sitting just a little behind, maybe on a softer chair with his feet up. In one hand, there is a book of seemingly poetry, and in the other hand, he's holding his teacup waiting for Burnright to pour his tea. And he needs his tea very, very specific, the direct opposite of Josiah Pebble. Andre Falcone expects a lot of flavor and a lot of spice in his tea. And he's just standing there looking at his book with his hand stretched out for the tea to be poured.
Burnright.
Of course, Master Falcone. And very studiously pour in some imported Turkish tea. We're gonna put a little bit of cinnamon stick and shave a little bit off in there. There you go, sir. And I will comment to Vera. I'm like, I think you're right, Vera. I think there are many things that are bright and beautiful in this world, and I think a little bit of distraction is definitely something to be something to seek out. And then I
Here,
will
Bernie.
I will move myself back to the corner of the room.
Hey, top me off a bit, Bernie. And she'll sort of shake her empty teacup at him.
Very
I
good.
will look at her and, of course, ma'am.
So let's go ahead and start funneling into our investigation here. You have some leads to follow up on that were in the introduction. If you want to follow along a little bit more closely, there's a tab on the character keeper that says threats. I've put the relevant information there. But you do have some leads here. You know the last place that the play was at, which is Ranelagh Chapel. You know about a couple of people whose admittance to Bedlam might be connected to the play. That would be Larkin Creel and Hypatia Quint. And there's also just generally... Oh, wait, we just lost someone. Oh, okay. There's also just generally a vibe in London, right? So you might have good luck just wandering the streets and kind of seeing what you can see. So there are different ways you can go about this. You just need to figure out what signs precede the play and a performance of it, so that you can figure out where it's going to appear next, so that you can go to it tonight. So I'm going to start with Ms. Kaufman. What do you want to do?
I think she wants to check out the last location of the play. Was it the Ranelagh Church?
Yeah, I believe it's called, I had to look up the pronunciation of this word earlier today. Ranelagh Chapel.
Ranelagh Chapel, yeah.
Yeah.
She'll I think she's gonna head there.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Mr. Falcone?
I think Mr. Falcone is gonna go to the hospital and talk to the afflicted.
Mr. Pebble?
Something creepy happening in a church. Josiah is almost out the door already.
Very good. And Burnright, you are not forced to stay around Hargrave House cleaning up, or maybe you do for the part of the day, but then what do you do after that?
I definitely take Master Falcone's lead and attend to him at the hospital.
Very good. Let's go ahead and start with Ranelagh Chapel then. Are the two of you, Ms. Kaufman and Mr. Pebble, you're going together?
I think so, unless I'm too distasteful to be seen with in public. I know I'm a bit of a wanton woman.
I think we were going at the same time, but like Josiah is keeping like a good like it's COVID, a good 6 feet of distance between the two of them at any given moment as they walk and explore.
I love it. So you might be disappointed to learn, Mr. Pebble, that it's not actually a church. It's just called that. When you get there, you can see that the chapel is under renovations. There are paint cans and scaffolding all over the place. You can hear after you enter, you can hear the sort of din of people, passersby outside. And the performance was actually held in the basement of this renovation, this building under renovation. The basement itself is dimly lit and contains only a shoddy wooden stage and canvas backdrop. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Paint the scene is a question that I pose to you all, and in the answering of it, you help build up an idea of what this place is like, and you explore an idea about this place. And so the question for Ranelagh Chapel is, this place has been touched by madness, but some elements of it almost seem too mundane. What are they?
Hmm.
So-
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so if it's under renovation, um, then they've got paint cans, they've got scaffoldings, and I just see that the painting is just starting to get underway, and it kind of starts off in like kind of maybe this bizarre kind of motif, but then it ends up being like a cat or something like that.
I think that there were sort of maybe at least rumors of the ending of the play being this sort of hysterical riot. But when we get there, we see that the folded wooden chairs are all set up neatly in rows.
Just a lot of pigeon feathers everywhere.
Nothing could be more common in London.
It's surprisingly well lit. For a like there are windows in the basement, but like it's a sort of a 3/4 basement, and there
Yeah.
are sort of windows at the street level.
Hmm.
That at this time of day are just letting in these bright streams of light that just illuminate this ostensibly creepy location.
I love it. Ms. Kaufman, Mr. Pebble, you can see a woman who seems to be sort of directing the work that's going on. There are builders that are there. She has a cherubic face, short, wavy brown hair, very modestly dressed. But she definitely seems like she's in charge, as she's sort of like saying, "No, no, no, move that over here." And yes, yes, that's good. Yes, well, and she kind of like leans back and she's like, "Yes, I suspect our next performance will be something a little less destructive." And the builders are kind of moving things around. And Miss Kaufman, what do you do?
She'll look to Josiah and say, "Well, I know you're disappointed that this is an actual church, but do you want me to go talk to her? Or do you want to?"
Anything can be a church in the right spirit, but talking seems more your thing.
By all means, don't get into too much trouble. And she'll saunter over to this woman.
Mr. Pebble, are you going to be like just kind of generally searching around then, or what are you going to be doing?
Yeah, is there anywhere, especially in like the basement where this was performed, are there people everywhere? There's no opportunity
Yeah,
to
there's
be
a lot
like
of
unnoticed.
Yeah, there's a lot of like people just roaming around. Yeah, but it also kind of provides its own camouflage, right? Because no one's like stopping you from roaming around, also. So
Yeah, no, I'm sort of searching things out, and of course my eyes, in particular, is sort of like looking for the uncanny and and things like that.
I love it. Let's trigger the information move. And the way you've described it, I think I'll probably let you do it with sensitivity. The move says when you search for a clue, conduct research, or otherwise gather information, describe how you're doing so. And you have described it as sort of like looking for the uncanny, maybe like trying to be sensitive to weird things happening in the environment, and roll with an appropriate ability. So I think sensitivity is the one. So you're going to roll 2d6, add your sensitivity modifier to that.
Well, that's what I get for not min-maxing. That's a 5 + 1.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Ms. Kaufman, this woman, you'll learn from somebody nearby. You can ask easily and find out her name is Marie Litton. And she looks at you and she says, "Oh my goodness, what an incredible costume! Is that from who made that? Is that from our wardrobe department?"
No, no, no. I got it back in the Americas. I got it-
American. Your accent is most striking. I actually have need of someone to portray an American woman in our next production. Maybe you would be interested?
Well, I'll definitely take your information down. I do love performing, but I'm actually here on a bit of business. You see, well, yes, I heard about that play that happened here. Kind of wild and crazy play. Something about,
Oh, you mean the King in Shadows?
yeah, that's the one.
Yes. Well, let me tell you, sometimes art is more woeful than life. It was really a very interesting production. I mean, the whole second act was just two people rowing an imaginary boat with imaginary oars down an imaginary river, occasionally punctuated by wailing from the chorus. I mean, Hamlet, it is not.
Let me tell you what, that's not the strangest kind of play I've seen. You know, the strangest kind of play I've seen, there was one that I saw back in Wyoming. God bless them. They brought out real livestock and they adorned them with costumes. They was doing a production of Hamlet all the way out in the middle of nowhere. It was the strangest thing I'd ever did see. And I'm trying to use my tall tales here
Oh,
to
very good. Well, let's read your move. Your move says...
when you tell a story from back home that is wildly unbelievable in order to charm someone, roll with presence. On a hit, they fall for your charm and do as you wish or reveal a clue. My choice. On a 10, they won't ask for anything in return. And on a 12, they also give me a keepsake.
Yeah. So your tall tale is Hamlet in Wyoming with cattle.
Well, performed by livestock, yeah.
Very good. Roll with presence. Let's see how you do.
Rolling like gangbusters here. That's a 6 total.
Well, bad results. So I think we'll probably combine your failures here momentarily, but we're going to cut away for a bit and go to the other two. Mr. Falcone, Burnright, you're not allowed to you can't approach the hospital by hansom cab. You have to stop a little ways out, then walk the rest of the way. And as you're walking there, Burnright, I'm sure a few paces behind, you come across a very interesting figure standing on a little plinth on the corner, wearing very black, form-fitting attire, not a single shred of skin visible, and a pallid mask over their face. And they're just standing on this plinth in perfect stillness, as if they were a statue, though they're clearly not a statue. Mr. Falcone, what do you do?
I turn to Burnright. Burnright, have you seen this? That is most unusual.
No, sir, I haven't, and I can put out word to see if my people have seen these about.
Yes, please do. Please speak to your little rats and see if they have heard anything.
Yes, of course, sir. I will
Strange
send that out.
occurrence. Good.
Well, could be a good opportunity to find a new follower, sir. Do you wish to speak to them?
Mr. Falcone, as you've been having this conversation, you're now suddenly quite aware that this figure standing on the plinth has been very, very slowly moving their black-gloved hand toward your face. To where you turn to them now, they are mere inches from your cheek. Their fingertips are. What do you do?
I take a step back and say, "Excuse me? How dare you?"
I'll step in between the two.
They become suddenly very animated. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. To be or not to be? It goes on like this for some time.
No.
I think the
I
strangeness of this moment, I would like. Well, how are you feeling, Burnright, when you see this?
uh so as soon as he says all the world's a stage,
Yeah.
I immediately go from, oh, this is something creepy, to like, oh, 2-bit hack.
Hmm. Mr. Falcone, how are you feeling?
I am feeling very annoyed at the audacity of this person approaching me and speaking to me as if he is my equal. I'm not used to this.
They continue, looking past Burnright, who's almost invisible to them. They say,
I am wearing a mask, and yet it is you who are in disguise. What are you hiding from your fellows here in this great metropolis at the center of the world?
Well, it seems you are quite the performer, my friend. Where did you train? Where did you learn the words of the bard?
they are now between you and Burnright, and you don't even remember seeing them move. And they're very, very close. The face, pallid mask is mere inches from yours.
I will continue to try and talk to him
I
to
would like
mask
the-
my fear.
I'd like the
Yeah.
day move.
Yeah.
The day move, let's read the day move. The day move says, when you do something risky or face something you fear, name what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve. So in this case, you're facing something you fear. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve?
If I lose my nerve, this person is going to he's going to know my secret. He's going to know about the reflection.
Very good indeed. Go ahead and roll with composure.
That's a total of 9.
9. He won't know because you've succeeded. But I will tell you how you're vulnerable here. And how you're vulnerable is you as a player will have to tell the rest of us what the reflection is, what your masterwork is.
Okay.
So maybe do tell us. What is it?
Okay. Somewhere underground, there is a maze, almost like the inside of a pyramid. And at the very center, after you pass all the booby traps and spikes and random dangers, you will reach a chamber where there is a Greek-style statue of myself standing on a central plinth.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's cut back to Mr. Pebble. Mr. Pebble, you have managed to find yourself behind stage, or behind the curtain backstage, while Miss Kaufman is up front chatting with this woman, Marie Litton. Because you got a miss, I'm going to move you around a little bit. You're roaming around back there, trying to get a feel for things. And even though you cannot see anyone in the backstage area, you can feel their presence. There is someone back here with you. Indeed, their dark clothing causes them to blend in to the shadows. And when they make themselves known, they just look like a series of comedy and tragedy, and also other emotions, masks floating in the blackness. But then the pale masks are joined by the glimmer of silver. These individuals, about half a dozen of them, are armed with knives, daggers of a ritualistic nature, curved, ornate. And they speak with one voice.
All hail the first and final king. All hail he who shall rule hereafter. Hark, he comes. O Dispater, O Father of Darkness, we dedicate this pantomime to your eternal rule.
And they begin rushing you with the knives. Josiah, unless you want to put on a mask, I'm going to make you roll to defend yourself here.
We just
We
so
We
just
can
make
talk
sure
about the
I'm
mask mechanics. Yeah.
yes. If
Um,
if I want to undo what happens here,
Yeah, it just bumps up your previous die roll, basically.
okay.
Here's how the masks work. You have two sections in your character sheet. One's called the Mask of the Past, and one's called the Mask of the Future. The Mask of the Past, you have to mark the first box if you want to do that one, and it usually involves narrating a flashback. The Mask of the Future, you can mark any of the boxes. They do different things. Alternatively, this particular threat has its own mask available that can be marked once by one hunter, which is called the Mask of Dissociation. Which, if you wish to do that, you can do that. Otherwise, we'll continue with the scene.
I know. Let's let it roll.
They are rushing you with daggers drawn. What do you do?
I've seen some weird shit in my time. And my instincts are all spiritual defense here. Not ward off these attackers with daggers, but ward off these spirits is what my assumption is. And so I think I've reached inside my pocket and like pull out a copy of that famous misprint Bible from the 17th century that says "Thou shalt commit adultery."
Oh, very good.
Which I've managed to track down and just like thrust it out and start reciting something in Latin that it's a like a perverted "Our Father who art in hell, cursed be thy name."
Very good. I love it. Are you trying to do Rites of Salt and Smoke?
If I can, I wasn't sure if that required more
No,
time.
I'm into it.
Okay.
I mean, it could. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll consider the haste when I'm thinking about how this goes. But when you do your offering, which is in your case perversion of Christian rituals, to the dark entities that are always lingering in your peripheral vision, please roll a sensitivity. What'd you get?
This is not going well for Josiah of Hevel. That's a 4 + 1.
Very good. There is no miss condition on this move, but I will make.
In fact, I'm gonna mask this.
Oh, okay, very good.
I think it's time to make some progress here and not continually bog us down. What was the mask of perversion again?
I won't. You or the Mask of Dissociation, you mean?
So yeah, that's right. Yes.
You have to mark it to find out what it does. So
okay. I'll just do the mark of the past, the first one for me.
So now your roll's a 7 to 9. The magic works imperfectly. You have a list of effects. Choose one effect, and then also choose a complication.
I'm going to choose to banish the spirit from the place it inhabits. And the complication is that the effect is short-lived.
Oh, very good. So I think what's going to happen here is basically, I have an idea. We'll come back to it, though. I want to check in with Miss Kaufman. Miss Kaufman, you got a miss, right?
I did.
You did. As Marie Litton is talking to you, she's laughing at your silly cow Hamlet thing. Do you do this quote, "To bovine self be true"?
That was the name of the production, actually.
Very good.
So, yeah. To bovine self be true, yeah.
I love it. I love it. She's laughing. She's kind of carrying on. The whole time she's like laughing, there is a bloody scar opening up on her forehead of its own volition. You can just see the flesh in her forehead tearing. You can see the capillaries bleeding out. There's a symbol forming on her forehead, a strange spiraling symbol. You're actually getting a clue here, but I'm going to give you a condition called "you have seen it." And furthermore, I'm going to make you roll the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail to keep it together while watching this symbol appear on her head quite violently? She seems unaware of it.
Yeah, I imagine as the flesh is sort of parting, the blood is
Yeah.
trickling down her face. I think Virus is afraid that the symbol is going to somehow start to appear on her own face and affect her in a similarly delusional manner.
It's worse than that. It's going to appear on your corpse. So please go ahead and roll with sensitivity and disadvantage because of I have seen it. Or you have seen it.
So that's going to be a... Really should have taken that bonus in sensitivity. There's going to be a 6.
A 6. I will pick up with that scene in a moment. Let's go back to Burnright and Mr. Falcone. Mr. Falcone, you keep it together. This man, Burnright, or this person, grabs at Mr. Falcone's face. "Remove your mask, deceiver." What do you do, Burnright?
I take my walking stick and I do a full swing. Don't touch Master Falcone.
Indeed. This is going to be the day move. You get advantage because you're directly defending Mr. Falcone, so that's nice.
Okay.
What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail, though?
Falcone won't trust me to act as his only bodyguard.
Sad, yeah. This is going to be with vitality. You do get to roll with advantage, so you'll take 3 dice and take the 2 highest after you roll.
Yep. 10.
10. The scene is yours. Please describe how you dispatch this person.
I will just try and kneecap him. I think I just want to hit from down low, hit the side of his leg, so he can no longer come forward at Master Falcone. I'm like, "Scoundrel! Even I hope your pittance as an actor can't pay for your medical bills."
He falls down, wailing. Quite a dramatic wail. Like, you did knock him down. You did probably, like, hurt him. But he's like, "Oh, oh, my leg. My leg. I shall never walk again. Oh, cruelty. Oh, cruel universe." What are you doing, Mr. Falcone?
That should teach you a lesson about touching what is not yours. And I'm going to address. Is there a crowd forming?
I think
there...
certainly, yes, yeah.
Yes. Let that be a lesson to all of you Londoners, not to reach above your station, or the fist of power will come crashing down upon you. And I'm going to spit on the person.
I love it.
Very good, sir. I will try and, without actually touching him, but guide by his elbow to try and leave the area.
Very good, very good. I love it. Good scene. Let's cut back over to the others. Josiah Pebble. You only have a moment to act here, Josiah. Your magic done hastily and with an imperfect understanding of what's going on basically just holds them off long enough for you to escape. Please describe it.
Yes, I sort of like spin around and like as I like move the this sinful misprint Bible in one direction, like the ones in the other that I'm not pointing it at start edging closer. And so I just like spin it around at them and like roll awkwardly under the curtain back out into the main room.
You might see what's happening right now to Ms. Kaufman. Ms. Kaufman, you see this sign, this sigil, this strange spiraling shape, which is a clue, by the way, if somebody wants to note that down, appearing on her forehead. She seems unaware of it. There's like blood dribbling in her eyes and into her mouth, and she's not even aware of it. And she's looking at you and she says, oh my goodness, ma'am, are you okay? She says to you, because you realize that your chest, your shirt is filling with blood. The symbol is presently being carved into your breastbone. And the moment it is pointed out to you, that's when you feel it. Your heart seizes up, you scream and collapse and fall down on the concrete floor, quite dead.
Yeah, that's rough.
Well, good game. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see you guys.
Unless you're invoking Janus Mask.
Yeah. I will go ahead and mark a mask. Yes.
Dissociation, past or future?
I think I'm going to take. I'll take a mark of the past, a mask of the past, rather.
Instead, you got a 7 to 9. I'm going to give you. You already have a condition. You have seen it. I don't need any. I'm not going to add any further complication here, except to just. I would like you to describe just. Okay. Instead, you don't see anything on you. You still continue to see it on her, bleeding down into her face.
Would it be okay maybe if the symbol does appear on me, but it doesn't? It's not life threatening, or
I kind of like that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Take it as a condition then.
Yeah.
But what do you do at this point?
I think when she points out that she sees my blouse sort of having this sort of bleeding through, she'll just instinctively, in this very, non-Victorian way, start to open up her top in front of this woman and just sort of like look at her chest and see the sort of the strange spiral that's already sort of started to appear. And she'll feel her blood and realize that this is some wound that has appeared. And she'll say, I think you have something on you too. And she'll just sort of go up to her forehead and like rub some of the blood away and show the woman the blood on her thumb.
Josiah, you'll see all this. What do you do?
Like I'm fascinated by it. And I think I am just like watching and observing to learn what I can. Because something is at work here, and which is a much more exciting thing than something so tedious as conversation with Vera again.
Make the information move with composure.
All right. Okay, these guys are getting retired.
Is it bad again?
It's a 3+1.
Oh no, boy, it's cruel. I got to keep up with all these misses here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go pretty hard here. You're watching this scene, and as soon as you lay eyes on the symbol, there's a ripple in reality. It's like you're watching a play, except you're on stage. But Vera Kaufman and Marie Litton seem like they're the ones performing. An intermission. The curtain falls, and our cast stand backstage amidst the elaborate set of the previous scenes. The other performers in the wings change costumes, reapply makeup, practice lines, or cry solemnly. All 4 of you are together again. How do you each enjoy the break as you step off stage momentarily?
I'll go to pick the lint off of Master Falcone's jacket to the sides there, and it's like, oh, that was a very good showing so far, sir.
Did the costume department do well with the jacket this time, Mr. Falcone?
No, indeed. I am quite done with this one, and I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to go to my rack of clothes, and I'm going to start picking things, and I'm going to do one of those montages where I'm just trying on clothes.
Marie Litton, the actress playing her, she's got a rag and she's wiping off the blood, the special effects, the makeup. She's like, ugh, I hate when that stuff gets in my mouth. Ugh. You can see white masked people sitting around smoking cigarettes, their masks up on their heads. What are you doing on your break, Vera?
Yeah, she's I think she's nearby Marie, and she's like, yeah, it's so sticky. Ugh, God, it's cleaned everything. And I think when she does it, she's sort of walking past Josiah, just sort of taking off her top and swapping it out for another one from the styling department. She just sort of puts it on. And like we noticed that like her bra is very modern. It's very like, it looks like something that you could have gotten at Victoria's Secret. It's not like, like a Victorian corset or anything like that.
Oh, interesting.
But she puts the top back on and starts to adjust her bolo. And she'll go up to Bernard and say, hey, you got a light? She'll hold up a cigarette.
But of course, ma'am, definitely provide a light, and I'll also provide a handkerchief. It's like, oh, you seem to still have a bit on your negligee.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, ma'am.
This whole butler thing is very method of you.
Some method acting going on. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Josiah, what are you doing on your break?
The moment Josiah steps off stage, he immediately goes and throws a robe on, because Josiah, while he's on stage, is wearing only a sparkly man thong and is otherwise completely naked. And so the moment he is not acting, he covers himself.
Somewhere in the distance.
Is someone gonna get that?
Intermission's over. Back at Bedlam. Bethlehem Royal Hospital. Sometimes surprisingly clean, other times not. Too many empty corridors. There's a heavy blanket of quiet stillness spread over the place. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Madness walks the streets, and so the patients are quiet. What do we hear in the silence that makes us fear exploring deeper within?
Down one of the corridors, there is this rhythmic, very slow, methodical thumping sound, as if something is hitting porcelain tile in the sort of drum beat. But after every beat, we hear a slight chuckle.
There's a kind of a clacking, a metallic, of like maybe bedpans kind of clanging together every once in a while, and you just hear an orderly say, "It's like, yeah, it seems to be always the one who think that they're not mad that are the maddest, right?"
There's the sound of someone off in the distance screaming, but with sort of a Doppler effect, like they're falling past you. But like it's continuous. Like that optical illusion of the continuously falling tone. it is if somewhere off in the distance someone is just continually falling and screaming as they do so.
A very classic little girl singing a nursery rhyme, drawing closer and closer. And as the voice comes through, we can see that actually it's an old man that's singing.
We'll return to Bedlam in a moment. Mr. Pebble, because I did the intermission reaction, your die roll is bumped up to a 7 to 9. And so you get a clue. As you're watching this strange blood spiral thing happening to Marie Litton and to Vera Kaufman, they're both looking at each other's respective wounds. It's a bizarre scene. And yet, someone in the dark whispers over your shoulder a line from Lysistrata by Aristophanes. There is no beast more stubborn than a woman, and neither fire nor leopard is more ruthless. That is your clue, whispered over your shoulder by one of the dark entities that's always surrounding you. I will clip that in the chat for you so you all can transfer it as you wish.
Stubborn, okay.
I do want to know, though, I am going to give you a condition, though. The condition is going to be neither fire nor leopard is more ruthless. Back to Bedlam. Mr. Falcone, you're approached by a man with a head of luxurious silver hair. He has a pipe with a Flying Dutchman motif in his hand. He has a very clean smell. He's not actually smoking the pipe. He's just holding it up to his mouth as if he were smoking a pipe. He even makes the motions of smoking a pipe, though it is clearly not lit. And he says, "My goodness, have we met before?"
Before I respond, I would, if you allow me, I'd like to establish that after the intermission, I had a costume change, and I came back with a semi-sheer black kaftan from another play.
He's looking at you and he says, "I'm quite certain if we've met before, I would remember you."
Yes, most do, but I certainly do not remember you.
He absently is just reaching out to touch your chest.
I'm waiting for Burnright to do his thing.
Yes, I will step forward and just
says,
slowly.
Excuse me.
I'm used to this sort of behavior.
I'm very sorry. This place tends to get to one. And he puffs on his non-lit pipe. I'm Dr. Rodney Walters. Sorry, let's get off on the right foot, shall we? Dr. Rodney Walters, I'm head of all of this. It's fascinating work, working in Bethel Royal Hospital. Do you know someone who is currently interred or housed here?
Oh, yes, of course. Now that you mention your name, of course, we have indeed met. I am a good friend of Hypatia Quint and Larkin Creel. I was wondering if there were any updates on their condition. Have they said anything?
Yes. There is Ms. Quint and Mr. Creel present very, very fascinating outcomes, lines of inquiry. Someone should write a paper about it, really. I think I probably will be the one to do it. I'm still trying to make sense of all of it, make sense of their condition. It's also...
Is there anything that I can pick your mind on. I am something of a scholar myself.
Oh, make the information move with presence.
Yeah. That is going to be 11.
11. Good. I'll give you a clue in a moment. Burnright, while he's having this conversation, no one's paying attention to you. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's one of the nice parts about being in this profession is that, yeah, a lot of the focus is off me. So I'm just gonna kind of back up and peer into one of those rooms that, like, it's everyone says that it's really quiet here, or that they are quiet. I just want to take a peek in one of the rooms to see, is there like more drugs being given, or is everyone truly just chilling out?
I think you actually find the room with Hypatia Quint.
Okay.
You'll see her. She has wild hair with flowers woven in it, a very angular bird-like nose. She looks up from her little cot and sees you staring into this kind of bars at the top of the door. We imagine that you walked down a hallway or two before you found her. She looks up at you, and she rushes up to the bars to like talk to you really closely and quietly. She says, have you come for me?
Not quite sure. What are you in here for?
Oh, well, I just I'm having a touch of nerves, and well, until my nerves get evened out, I have to stay here for a little while.
I see. Did you see something that you were most recently at a play? Is that right?
Oh,
Can you tell me about it?
oh yes, yes. Do the information move with presence is fine. Yeah.
Oh, 12. What?
Hey, good. We'll come back to this in a moment. Mr. Pebble and Miss Kaufman, after this bizarre scene, what are the two of you doing at this point?
Well, I could go for a drink. If nothing else, I know that playwrights love to drink. And so I would like to probably go to like there's probably some kind of tavern in the theater district. See if I can get a drink and source some information that way.
You might even know that there is one in particular that the people in this play are known to frequent, called the Night Tap. What about you,
Yeah.
Mr. Pebble?
I need to sorry, just checking up how can you explain again how the mechanic works for the personal quarters?
Oh, basically, whenever you're getting ready to roll dice, if something from your personal quarters would be helpful, you can mark it and get advantage on the die roll.
Okay. I am going to retreat back to Hargrave House because I need to get back into a situation where I have a little bit more control.
Back to your ritual chamber.
Yeah, back to my ritual
Yeah.
chamber. And I am going to, taking my time now more deliberately, try to contact some, well, friendly is not the right word, but less hostile spirits.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And try to get information from them, because whatever's happening is has surely been noted in the spiritual world.
I love it. Let's take a 5-minute break. When we get back, we'll do another scene or two in this day phase, and then we'll transition to the night phase. Okay? We'll answer that question, and then we'll transition to the night phase. So, be back in 5. Burnright. Ms. Quint. She mutters to you. Are you quite sure that we are awake? I am convinced that nothing is real, that we sleep still. that all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I read that once. Reality is the illuminated set of a stage, but that is not real. It is a dream. It is the artifice of the shadowed wings, the backstage that erects the backdrops and lights the lights. Ever since the play arrived in London, the shadows go in the wrong direction. And indeed, you'll notice your own shadow is bending in the wrong direction. It's bending toward the lantern light in the hall. I would like, no, I'm not gonna make you roll because you got such a good roll, but I'm curious how you feel though.
My head is definitely going to swim, trying to get reorientated. I am not a stranger to foreign substances.
This is nothing like that, I'm afraid.
Well, I will walk with the confidence of a man freshly on a new steamboat and check Miss Quint. If did you I don't have anything else. I'm just kind of be struck.
Yeah. You get a clue. That's your clue
Baffled.
though. Your clue is shadows are going in the wrong direction.
Like a pretty good one.
It's a good clue. Yeah.
I was just about to ask. That sounds like a clue. Is that a clue?
That is the clue, yes. Mr. Falcone. What'd you get on your die roll, Mr. Falcone?
I was an 11.
Okay, you got a good one too. Dr. Walters is carrying on at some length about different things. He's happy to take you to speak with Mr. Creel, perhaps at another time. Right now, Mr. Creel is being a bit difficult. But I will tell you, he says, an odd thing ever since he arrived. Look here. And he takes you over to, there's a mirror hanging on the wall in the corridor that you're in. He says, and if you look at the mirror, it's completely smoky. You can't see anything in it. He says, there is no mirror in this place right now that will show your beautiful reflection. None. And he even holds up a little kind of small pocketable mirror and shows that it too is smoky. He says, things are very strange in London right now. And that's your clue. The smoky mirrors.
If I can throw out there, if he does hear this at all, I will start shouting for Andre. So invoking his first name means that I am very scared.
Very good.
And I will start trying to run down the hallways towards him as don't look at your shadow.
We'll cut there. I want to pick up with Josiah in the ritual chamber. Let's learn about your ritual chamber.
Can I pause for a second here?
Yeah.
We've now got 4 clues.
We do indeed. Yeah.
Which is certainly a much better situation than we were. Would it be more interesting if I were to, if I believe I'm recalling the mechanic correctly, indulge my vice to try to clear a condition?
So you have to do that, and you have to do that with another character in the scene.
Okay.
Gotcha. And it's usually a sort of it's kind of a session 2 thing, after you've had it.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
You can carry on then.
Yeah. But certainly, if we had more time in the day phase, we could figure that out. But I think for now, I think what you had planned is a good one.
Sure.
You have prepared one of the rooms in Hargrave House to be a ritual chamber. During the night phase, presence and sensitivity scores are increased by 1. Anyone who benefits from this takes a condition, tainted. We are not in the night phase, but I'm going to say we are close enough to it. At the very least, you can probably, we'll say you can do this during the night phase coming up. Maybe the watching of the play is sort of an out of character thing anyway. I mostly just want to know about the ritual chamber though. Like, let's paint the scene, everyone. What do we see in this chamber that tells us vile, macabre rites have been performed here?
There's has to be a skull that bleeds from the eyes that I have to clean up every fortnight or so, or else it starts to spread too far, and I just cannot keep it from bleeding.
There is sort of a wooden cross, and I think that on the cross there is a flayed monkey's carcass.
There is.
Go
Go ahead.
go.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's some nasty looking cages, and on the side, on the floor, you can see that someone has scratched "help."
There is a rack with a collection of tinctures, such as are used to contain holy water. But on a closer inspection, the water in them has a yellowish tint.
Fantastic. Good. I think we'll wrap your day phase, Josiah, by just telling me what preparations you're making for your ritual you're going to do here.
So Josiah, there's certain pro forma things he has to do. He arranges his candles in a pentagram, etc. But I think the most important thing that he does is he goes, once he's done the basic arrangements, he hears the bells start to ring, and he knows it's sunset. And he goes to the nearby neighborhood church to take communion, which he always does, but he always tucks the wafer under his tongue to then smuggle the consecrated wafer out, so he can use a freshly consecrated communion wafer in his coming ritual.
Fantastic. Ms. Kaufman, you said you were going to go to the night tap, or that's the ad. You've been given an address to the night tap. When you show up, though, the address of where the night tap should be is just a little gap between buildings, barely an alley. Standing in the gap is an organ grinder, grinding his organ, and there's a little monkey bouncing back and forth. And you can hear the heavy clop, clop, clop of horses behind you coming to a stop. There's an incredibly large and ornate carriage in the road, and its passenger is looking at you. A beautiful, dark-skinned woman dressed in blue. She says, "The place you're looking for has the peculiar habit of disappearing in the day."
That is peculiar.
It is indeed. I would be happy to take you with me as a guest on an upcoming evening. Not tonight. Tomorrow night, perhaps.
And what do I owe this pleasure for?
I assure you the pleasure would be all mine. I would like something in return, though.
There's always a catch, isn't it?
Always. Always a catch. Miss Kaufman,
I'm sorry?
you and your colleagues are very close to finding the location of the next performance of The King in Shadows. I would like to go as your +1.
Well, you know my name, but I don't know yours.
No, indeed you do not. And she says, I shall come and collect you from Hargrave House when the time is right. As she recedes back into the seat of her carriage, you can't see anything in the dark of the carriage except for the glimmer of a large sapphire. That will conclude the day phase completely. Let's go to the dusk. The dusk. All right, so if we go to the hunters section, actually there should be a tab with the little phase tracker. Where did that go? Here it is. Okay, the first thing we have to do in the phase is, do we have any playbook moves that resolve in the dusk by chance?
I have one.
Okay, what is that? Oh, you have to roll for the quickening. That's right. Yeah.
Given how great I've been rolling, I'm very excited to see what happens.
Let's read the quickening. It says that would put a real wrench in the plans.
All right.
You live with a curse that causes you to become savage, even feral, to the point where your body physically changes. At the start of the dusk phase, please roll with composure or sensitivity, your choice.
Well, let's see. I've got a 0 in both, so I'm just gonna go ahead and roll.
What'd you get?
I got a 5.
You got a 5. That's
Should
not
have rolled
great.
composure.
That is not great. Okay. On a miss, you're going to lose control. Retire this character and tell the keeper to put the cursed threat in play, or reveal your curse to another hunter and ask for their help controlling you tonight. If they agree, neither of you can take any action that would trigger a move during the upcoming night phase, though you should narrate scenes showing how the cursed character is being controlled throughout the night. You do both get to mark XP at the end, though. We can't hear you.
Would this be something that I can mark a mask with?
Oh, you can absolutely mark a mask to avoid this, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to deprive anyone of not being able to see the play, so I will go ahead and mark a mask.
Take the condition
I mean,
drained, but you otherwise keep it together.
Okay.
I consider that just part of my job, Vera. That's okay.
Well, actually, at this point, no one knows about it, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is clear. This is just info for Vera. Very well. And let's keep going. Are there any other moves that trigger that need to be handled in the dusk? I know that I believe that you were going to put out. Oh, you have the Hargrave House informals. We can deal with them next session. Collection doesn't have any. I think that's it. Okay, so in that case, let's keep going. Let's learn a little bit about Hargrave House, actually. So we imagine that as you're all sort of getting ready to figure out where the play is going to be and then go to the play, you're all in one particular room in Hargrave House. And this is our chance to learn a little bit about the house itself. And so we're going to be in the trophy room. There were hunters living in Hargrave House before you, and trophies from their encounters with the supernatural can be found in the trophy room. Please name one or describe one.
There is a piece of stretched canvas over a wooden frame up against a wall that has a silhouette of a human face on it, and it's only on closer inspection and some familiarity with these things that one can realize that this is the dust of a vampire captured as they disintegrated mid-staking. just stained this canvas that some past hunter who was perhaps more concerned with art than safety arranged to set up.
There is in a corner a large, very elaborate and ornate looking Iron Maiden. But sometimes if you're in here for too long, you hear someone asking you to open it from inside.
I don't know if it matters how big we can make this room, but I'd like to get a large whale sort of size skull, just the skull part of it, with a little placard down in the right hand corner that just says Nessie.
There is a beautiful flower that's encased in a glass box, yeah, like the one in Beauty and the Beast. And yeah, if anyone ever lifts the glass, it emits a particular smell that puts people to sleep.
I love it. At this point, we need to try to answer the question. So let's talk about the clues that you have right now. I'll remind you of the question, which is, what signs precede a performance of the play and where will it appear next? Your clues are the strange spiral sigil in blood, this line from Lysistrata, shadows moving in the wrong direction, and a smoke obscured mirrors. Now, you don't have to use all of these clues. You can save some for the next question because there will be another question. But the way this works is the complexity, you're going to roll dice and you subtract the complexity, but you add in the number of clues you work into your answer. And then that gives us the final die roll. And then we see if you're correct. So I have no notion of what the answer is. This is on you all to figure out what the answer is. Obviously, the nature of the answer, you're not going to be able to give me like an exact address of the play, but just a sort of general idea of where the play will be found, and then we'll kind of figure out what it looks like. But who wants to take a crack at it? Who has a thought?
I have a theory.
Okay,
So,
what's that?
My theory is that there is possibly maybe some sort of secret bathhouse,
Okay.
maybe like old Roman bathhouses, somewhere beneath Buckingham Palace. I think
Loads of old Roman ruins in London, so that's good.
Yeah. So like the smoke obscured mirrors is like the idea of mirrors being fogged up by steam, not necessarily smoke, but steam. But the reason I'm thinking Buckingham Palace or to some degree is that these are the Queen's personal private baths, and the line from Lysistrata about the ruthless, stubborn woman is in reference to the Queen herself.
Oh, very interesting. That's intriguing. That accounts for 2 of your clues. Does anybody else have an alternate theory, or do they want to add to this?
I think we can verify that by looking at a map.
Mm-hmm.
And if we know where at least 1 or 2 of the plays have already happened, we can see if it's forming into the spiral on the map. And if we back up a little bit far enough away from each other,
see if the shadows are pointing in that direction. Yeah.
Yes.
Like if the shadows are all pointing in that's pretty interesting. That would incorporate all the clues if we I like it. I think it's a really, really good answer. Is everybody into this?
I dig it.
I don't think we need to use all the clues, but
you probably don't need to use the Lysistrata
yeah.
one anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because you could just say that it's going to be at a bathhouse somewhere in the city, and the shadows and the sigil will help us find it, right? I mean, I think that
I just liked it being being attached to the Queen.
Maybe it is. Who knows? But so, do we want to use all the clues, or want to save any back?
I think we should save at least one for whatever's coming next.
Very good. This is going to be a +1 then. Since the bathhouse was your idea, Jack, why don't you roll +1?
I don't want to roll because I have not rolled any hits today, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
give it to someone else.
You all have some
Don't look at
cursed,
me.
cursed dice today. The dice are very cursed. Someone roll +1.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll roll. That is 10 plus 1, 11.
Very good. So that's all you need. Fantastic. You are correct. We have the location. You can now, this night phase, you will attend. Now, I shall tell you that if this was a campaign of the Between, you would have the option of attending the play. You wouldn't have to do it. But because this is a contained two-shot, you are definitely attending the play. So that is what we're doing today. This night phase is also going to be a little special because we're not going to see your hunters. We're only going to be doing the unseen and the play. That's all we're doing for this night phase. We'll see your hunters briefly as they set out to the bathhouse and maybe as they arrive, but then once the play starts, we're just in the play mode. So let's talk a little bit about the unseen. So the unseen is a special, and at the time of the game's publication, quite novel mechanic whereby we narrate something that's happening in the city of London on this same night that you're watching the play. The events in the unseen don't have any direct connection to the play and to what you're seeing, except in this case it kind of does, because as we do the unseen, we're also going to show how the effects of the King in Shadows being in London is subtly affecting the scene, right? So it's going to be a slightly different unseen. But our goal as players with the unseen, in addition to narrating what it says to do, what you really want to do is you want to make connections. You want to make connections between the unseen and between the play. They can be thematic connections. They can be very direct, kind of like more literal connections. They can be motifs. It can be a feeling. It can be anything. But the idea is we want to create some connections between the two. This is to create a more thematic and cinematic experience for us all. If you make one of these connections in either direction when you're narrating, then you will have done what's called an echo in the night. And you get an experience point at the end if you do an echo in the night. So just as an example of how this might work, let's say at one point Hugo narrates in the unseen a sex worker dying of consumption. She coughs blood into a shallow bowl, and that's what Hugo narrates. And then later on, David, in the real world scene, or in the non-unseen, in the regular scene, David narrates a bowl of red flowers. That's an echo in the night because it's kind of visually connected to something that took place in the unseen. And it goes in both directions as well. So that's the idea.
So who would get the XP in that case?
Whoever made the connection. So like you
Okay.
would, David, because you talked about the flowers in the red bowl. You established something, you connected to something that was already established, right? So that's how this goes. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but you're going to have plenty of opportunities this night phase because we are strictly in narration mode for this night phase. There's going to be very little role play. So I'm going to introduce the unseen, and then we'll take a quick break so you can think about the unseen a little bit, and then we'll come back and do our night phase where we watch the play. If you want to follow along, well, you should head over to the tab called London at Night, the Unseen. Our unseen is going to be oh, I should have had this ready to go, but now I'm being all wishy-washy. A Drink at the Four Magpies. This is on line 41, all the way to the right. The Four Magpies is a pub popular with working-class gay men, run by the butch landlady Polly O'Donnell. While it seems like any other cramped, rowdy, spit and sawdust pub, it is an oasis of relative safety in a dangerous city. Polly does what she can to protect her boys. There are a few small rooms available upstairs, and some of the lads make a bit of extra coin entertaining wealthier guests. The first prompt is paint the scene. Everyone does this. The second prompt will be for Jack. The third prompt will be for David. And the fourth will be for Hugo. Let's take a 5-minute break so you can read through the prompts and think about your scenes. I'm not going to tell you what you're going to have to narrate for the play. That's all going to be a surprise. But start getting in the headspace of weird shit, weird theater stuff, and you'll be good to go. So let's take 5. A drink at the Four Magpies. Everyone please describe a moment we see of men sharing a moment of intimacy that would be unwise to do elsewhere.
So the first thing you see is something the most basic. There's a checkers game going on in the corner, under the table. Two lower middle class men, better heeled than dock workers, but not wealthy, are sort of moving the checkers pieces around. But when you look at it right angle, you can see that their legs are tangled together under the table, and just sort of moving a little bit to stay in contact with each other.
We see a trio of chimney sweeps, and they're all filthy and dusty, but they're all very excited as they're walking into the magpies. One jumps onto another's back and sort of like piggybacks off them, sort of all three of them laughing, but then Polly sort of scolds them, waving a rag around, telling them to to calm down. But we see that in the mirror, and this is how reality is sort of subtly changing. We see that there is a fourth chimney sweep that we don't see in the room with them. We only see them in the mirror.
Some of the more upper crust of the crowd, who are obviously single but are looking for a possible mate, go through the Victorian, well-known Victorian dating principles, whereas the men holding a parasol or a fan as they walk by, touching certain parts, either their chin or a different part of their hand, to indicate whether they're looking for company for the night or not.
There's a couple sitting behind a table on a bench, and there's one of them is a working class man, and the other one is more upper class. And the wealthier man is just lying on the bench with his head on the other man's lap, while the other one kind of just gently has his hand on the other guy's chest.
The King in Shadows. Penned by an anonymous author in the previous century, though its origins are possibly much older. Some say performing it acts as a ritual that thins the cosmic veil, exposing onlookers and participants to the influence of the occluded king. Perhaps even tonight we will be visited by his shadowy majesty. Perhaps we will be ushered into his darkened realm. Perhaps we will kneel before him. Perhaps we will be allowed to touch his bramble crown. Welcome, welcome to you all. Indeed, please describe each of you and your arrival at the bathhouse where the show is being put on tonight, this underground Roman temple.
Josiah arrives early. As soon as the doors open, he is there. He's dressed very simply in his black and white, very dark garb normally. And he takes a seat in the back corner, and uh, uh, appears to be writing in a notebook as he sits and waits for the play to begin.
I
will
open the
arrive.
door.
Yeah, Andre will arrive with a white suit and a white top hat with gold accents, and just looking very, very elegantly and beautiful and almost radiant, almost as if light was being given off of him.
I'll, of course, have been the one that have opened the door for the, I assume, the nice vehicle that he owns, and will keep a respectful 4 feet behind and to the left of him.
Well, I assume that the mystery woman came to pick up Vera, and so when the carriage arrives, Vera is in what appears to be like a tailored men's suit, but sort of tailored to her body. But it's in this sort of like beautiful, deep navy velvet, and she's woven some peacock feathers into her braids, and her hat is not. It's not the white one that she usually wears, though it still has the sort of rattlesnake tail on it. It's more of like a kind of like a teal green color.
Jack, we return to a drink at the Four Magpies. Jared, pay close attention to what Jack is about to say.
Curtis Jackson is a young barrow boy who has heard rumors of the Four Magpies but never visited before. How do we see him make his first nervous steps inside, and how is he drawn in? And so on the cobblestone street that leads down the alley that leads into the Magpies, we see Curtis. He's a handsome young man, red hair, freckled, fair-skinned. He looks a picture of anxiousness and intrigue. His eyes are fixed on the door. We keep seeing him sort of approach the curb, but then hesitate. We see on the other side of the street, though, in a pack of rougher sailors and fishermen, we see an incredibly handsome, very broadly built man, square jawed, olive skinned. He's wearing sort of like one of those newsy caps, but he looks over at Curtis and he smiles, and his teeth sort of have this brightness to them that feels very inappropriate for the time. But Curtis is taken by this handsome man and finally gathers up the courage to step off the curb and walk across the street. And as Curtis approaches, the man has stopped, waited for him as his mates have gone inside. And the very tall fisherman says, I've never seen you here before. And Curtis smiles and says, no, it's my first time. And the handsome fisherman says, well, let me buy you a pint then, show you around. And he begins to escort Curtis in. They keep a respectful distance, but we see reality sort of starting to shift when our camera pans down to the ground, and we see that their shadows are already entwined in this sort of aggressive, violent, sexual silhouettes as they enter the Magpies.
I was going to ask Jared about the shifting reality, but I like what you did there, so we'll save it. Act 1 is somewhat normal. It depicts the day-to-day life of a female protagonist, identified only as the journeywoman. The act ends when the journeywoman receives news that her 3 immediate family members, mother, father, and brother, have all been killed in a bizarre fishing accident. Let's paint the scene, everyone. The play features a Greek-style chorus that collectively narrates much of the story. What sort of masks do they wear, and why do those masks feel out of place?
Uh, what's unusual is that on a close look, they're not wearing masks at all. Their faces have been smeared with ash from chimneys. And so the entire all the chorus uh are wearing with these have these dark soot smudged faces as they sing and chant and recite around the stage.
Uh, I think they are masks, but they are also all faces. But they are flayed human skins that have been decorated in this ash, and the chorus have decided to adopt them. We see some of them still dripping with a little bit of fresh blood at the edges. Many of them have sort of been embellished. Some have sewn gold coins into the eye sockets. Some have sewn up the lips of other masks.
Supposed to add to that?
It's a hard act to follow. Do your best.
The question was about the masks.
Yeah, just why does it feel out of place? Like what? It could just be your perception of it too. It doesn't have to be the reality of it, right?
I think the shadows of the mass from if you get close enough to see on the grounds is not of people, but of wildlife like cheetahs and foxes and anything else mentioned in the play that all seem to be um like getting ready to go on a hunt, whether it is for prey or food or sexual. It's not quite clear.
As they narrate, they themselves stand in a formation that, if seen from a certain angle, looks like a mask, like a giant mask.
David, please take us back to the four magpies.
Yeah, so we see at the Four Magpies a handsome man in his late 20s step through the door, just very clearly wealthy. He has, I mean, there's that clean look that you can't fake uh with makeup or appearances. Uh he's wearing is blonde hair and is wearing an unusual yellow suit. Uh and his signs of wealth immediately uh uh attract the attention of a couple of the regulars here, who are always on the lookout to pick up some extra coin. Uh, in particular, two young men slide up and begin sort of with a good-natured rivalry that they've clearly done before, start competing for this man's attention. Uh, there's Jed, who is a large, muscular dock worker, uh, uh, who's just very forward, and uh, there's Ern, uh, the names they go by here at the Four Magpies anyway. And Ern is physically couldn't be more different from Jack. It's small and slender, clean shaven, and as they banter back and forth, a third young man who's wearing some nice clothes and is just sort of like filing his nails with in the background calls out to them and says, "You're making a mistake, Jack and Ern. Look at his shadow." And they look down and they see his shadow is going in the wrong direction.
Act 2. considerably more strange. Act 2 depicts the journeywoman's travels in the underworld, with a character called the Boatman, as they seek to find the court of the occluded king in order to petition him for the release of her family members from his shadowy realm. Let's paint the scene, everyone. What strange vistas are displayed on the backdrop during the journeywoman's travels through the underworld?
You see this sort of like painted backdrop, and there's all these sort of like these floating rocks, these floating sort of platforms made of earth. The one that strikes Vera in particular is one which features a house that is on fire. It's a very large sort of Gothic style house, almost resembles Hargrave House in a way, but it's on fire. And outside of it, there are little fleeing figures that have been painted on. But the one that she notices is a figure in all white with a white top hat being walked like a dog on a leash by a well-dressed man following behind him.
There is an urban crowd scene in a different scene of a promenade down a wide boulevard, and it's of a, and the action is proceeding in front of this painted backdrop, and it's a rainy day in the backdrop, and every single person who's walking down, all these fashionable people walking down the street, are all holding parasols and umbrellas over their heads at various and usual angles.
From one of the chimneys of the buildings before described, we see three chimney sweeps climb out, and start roughhousing. And then there is a fourth one in the background following in the distance, trying to reach them.
There goes to a simple pantry. And within the pantry is a candle. It is lit and is growing lower and lower. And just off stage, someone keeps asking, "Would you get another candle? Would you get another candle? Would you get another candle?" And there's no one there. There was no one to serve.
Hugo, our last trip to the Four Magpies.
As the clients begin to leave, we see Polly take their coats that they've left in the coat rack and hand them back to them. And we can see as she does that, she kind of pats the pockets and takes out anything that would be conspicuous, that would indicate that they have been here. And at the same time, she may leave a loaf of bread or some cut of cheese for those that don't have the means to feed themselves in the time between. To make it weird, in one of the mirrors, we can see the cloudiness, the smokiness, and we can see that actually her hands are putting not food but poisoned food into their pockets in the reflection.
Act 3. Utterly bizarre, difficult to follow, and to large portions of the audience that walked out in the middle of it, insufferable. The bulk of this act involves the introduction of three courtiers of the occluded king: the Duchess, the Prince, and the Knave. Let's paint the scene. In what disturbing or bizarre ways are the three courtiers introduced?
I think we see the Duchess first, and essentially when she enters the scene, she's been adorned with this sort of giant woman's face, made of, it looks too neat and too polished to be just something like made of paper mache. But it's this massive humanoid face, and the mouth is open and extended in this horrible grimace. as if waiting to be fed. And indeed, there are stagehands who are dressed all in these black suits, black bodysuits, and they are bringing rotten cheeses and moldy pieces of bread, and they're just stuffing them in this mouth of this duchess. And every time they put the food in this mouth, the eyes sort of roll back and flutter as if in some sort of sexual ecstasy.
They solely refer to each other not by name, but by genitalia in very specific appearances of their genitalia, as perhaps old rotten crotch has been doing well today. And as they tour about the sides of the or on stage there, you can't make sure if they're wearing pants or not wearing pants. It's all just such an utter sham, and surely the police will come at any moment.
The prince enters dressed in a full elaborate costume of a leopard, with a full mask and suit, and enters on all fours, and then turns and faces the audience and delivers a monologue, a bizarre, rambling, nonsensical monologue, and then turns, and in what everyone really hopes is excellent stage special effects, disembowels one of the extras in the chorus with blood splattering, and this costumed leopard prince apparently eats the bowels of this extra on stage in front of everyone.
The knave arrives, and as he's going to take off his hat to say hello, he actually takes off his entire head. And from his head, he extracts a bouquet of flowers that he hands to the journeywoman, and hands his head to an audience member. And that audience member spends the rest of the play getting whispers from the head about what's about to happen next. And this bit is really good. You should pay attention.
The play concludes with the appearance of the occluded king, an overly tall figure in tattered black robes, a ghost white mask, and a blood-red bramble crown. The chorus members sing a shrieking, discordant dirge as the three courtiers push the journeywoman toward the king. The lights are extinguished, and when they come back on again, the curtain has been lowered. No one takes a bow, and there are no ovations. Very few people even clap. The ending feels abrupt and incomplete. That will conclude our night phase. We are just about at time. I just need like 5 minutes to get through the dawn. We'll do our Janus Mass stuff next time. The dawn phase. Let's answer dawn questions. So everybody is getting credit for the first question, which is, did the hunters answer a question? Yes. However, did the hunters resolve the threat? Not yet. However, did you experience an echo in the night? I picked up echoes from everybody. I think everyone got one. There was lots of echoing in the night happening, lots of opportunities. Now let's go to the individual questions. Ms. Kaufman, did you encourage a fellow hunter to let loose for a change?
I encourage Josiah to add tea to his hot water.
I love it. I will take it. Did you have a raw, passionate sexual encounter during which your feral nature manifested?
I tried, but no dice.
No dice.
So
no dice. Burnright, you have got. Did you ensure your employer got credit for your triumphs?
And
Did you have a scene showing your secret private life in London?
not yet. No.
Not yet. You have 2 XP. Mr. Falcone, did you appear in London society wearing risque or avant-garde fashion?
I believe I did.
You did indeed. Oh yeah, I would say several times. Did you
Yeah.
secretly show a vulnerable side to someone?
I don't think I did, no.
Okay, you got 3 XP. Josiah, did you perform a ritual? You did. You had your fast ritual and you were preparing for a second one. I'll give you credit for it. Did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity?
Uh, almost very closely, too face to face for my comfort. But
Yeah, I am. I'll give you credit for it. I think we were pretty well in the pocket with that, even though the circumstances were slightly not quite what you think. Very good. So everyone's got some XP for today, and let's keep going. We'll do Janus Mass prompts next time. And so with that, let's just do a quick debrief. Stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, either something about the game, something about the story, something about the scenario, your fellow players, something I did, something about the characters. Wishes, and as many as you wish. Wishes are things that you hope to see in the story in our conclusion next week. Who would like to go first?
The two things that I wrote down in the chat that really stood out to me is I loved the interaction between Jason and Jack. I could hear you guys talk in character
Between
all
Theodora
night.
and Theodora
Yes,
and
you guys had a
Vivacious.
good
Yeah,
voice differentials that just made it like I was there, I was in, I wanted to see what happened.
I'm glad. Jack and I do play together quite a lot, so for what it's worth.
Okay.
But I will take the
Uh,
compliment.
the other one that I really liked was the when you fail, you see what happens when you fail. That's a really fun mechanic because you don't often get those moments where you can just disembowel or eviscerate your players with zero repercussions. Not really, you know. I thought that was awesome. I really enjoyed that part too.
Yeah. Like I mentioned at the top of the game, this is a very special game for me, and still continues to be one of my favorites. So I'm just super excited that I get to play. And I've only played with Jason, so playing with a bunch of new people, it's always sort of a toss up with me. But all of you did great, and I was very into everything that everyone was putting down. All the characters felt very like, even for the two players who haven't played this before, it felt very like you knew what you wanted to accomplish and what you set out to do, and it was very effective. I mean, Josiah and the hot water, I died. Um, Andre is smoking hot, as a good undeniable should be. And sort of as a wish too, I definitely want to see uh, I want to see him exercise his undeniability more. And I'm really curious. Like, one of the stars too is like I feel like everyone took really interesting first moves. Um, like usually with undeniable, you see giveth being taken first because people want servants, but you went a very different route and went with the collection, which I think I've only seen once,
The
and
collection doesn't get picked often, but it's my favorite. I love the
it's
collection.
really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like you get to really establish kind of like, you get personal quarter stuff, which hello, but you also get to sort of establish like your history, and how old you really are by having this sort of cachet of ancient objects. So I thought that was really cool, and I really can't wait to see more of that. And same to you, Jared. Like I know you haven't played this before, but like you were spot on with your commitment to your master, and I love this sort of like you knew that as a factotum to keep a level of distance that felt very respectful, but you were always on top of it whenever you needed to come through, whether it was like stepping in with your cane or making sure that your master wasn't being touched. I thought like for someone who hasn't played this before, I thought you grabbed onto the core of the playbook very very easily. Wishes, I need to clear some of these conditions because I'm stacked now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to vulnerable scenes.
Yeah, I'll go next. I had a great time. I've never run this threat before, and I love this threat. This threat is really fun, and it's actually like really ideal for a one-off game because it has a more complete narrative feel than some of the other threats do. The other threats, like a lot of them, really hang on the idea that they are one of many, whereas this one feels like its own little sort of like closed universe, which I think is great. So star for the threat. Everyone did a great job today with their characterizations. I loved how you all characterized your characters. Some of them were very classic characterizations, which I think is the right move. It's like for the factotum, it was a really like classic factotum characterization, which I think is the right move when you're especially learning the game, right? And the undeniable was quite a classic characterization as well, and I love that. But we also got these sort of like non-traditional characterizations with the vessel and the American. In particular, the vessel's like making like I've never seen a vessel like Josiah before. Like the vessel is usually this like just like a more like it's a Vanessa Ives type witch, and so like it's interesting to see this version of it. I really liked it. Everyone did a great job with their characterizations, though. I really enjoyed these characters a lot, even though we've had so little time with them. I felt like I have a really good handle on who they are, and I want to know more. That's my wish, is to know as much as we can know before our time is up. Lots of great narration. You all were way more than normal were called upon to paint the scene and do lots of narration. But everybody did a great job. I really loved the play. It was just so bizarre and weird and goofy and illogical in some ways, and it really did feel like, I mean, clearly this is inspired by the King in Yellow, right? And it really did feel like, well, if the King in Yellow was a real thing, if we knew what the King in Yellow was like, it would kind of be like this, I think, and so it was really fun. And the Four Magpie stuff was really good too. Like it all felt really, the energy and the pacing of it was really, really nice. So I'm just excited to see how this wraps up next week.
I think one of my wishes that I don't know if it's ever probably pointed out within the game or the adventure itself, but it just, especially once we got to the hospital, just realizing that there's just another layer of mask. So like we got to the actor that had a regular mask on, then we get to the hospital and you're like, well, are we now even awake at this point? And then we get to the play, which is totally ridiculous, which it's just like an absurdist play today, probably, but there's so many different layers of mass that, and then all of us have got some deep dark thing, I'm sure, that are written personally. I don't know if you can
or not
address
so
all
deep
that.
in some cases, but
Like it's a fascinating setup. I think the adventure is doing a great job of pulling these things out of the players.
Yes, stars. Stars for the game, of course. Is the first time been interested in this game for a long time. Very excited to get a chance to play it. Lives up to everything I hoped it would. Repeat what was been said about everyone else in your role play. Wishes. I would love to be able to explore sort of the more of the game mechanics next time. Indulging vices to clear conditions is one. I'm sure we'll get to put a few more masks on. Maybe I may possibly level up. I'm not sure if that's will happen or not. Getting an extra move, but as much as possible, like explore the mechanics that we haven't done yet. And would also love to get some scenes with different setups so we can bounce off each other in different combinations of roleplay.
From me, I think stars. I was blown away by people's paint the scene prompts, especially the masks on the chorus. That was wow. And also this threat is really cool. As someone who's familiar with the Between, it was really fun to be taking the structure and putting it a little out of focus, and that really pushed the idea of how weird this situation is, even for the characters. And wishes,
the meta
just
aspects are fun, right? The meta aspects of the thread are really fun.
The break and that was cool.
Yeah, definitely star for the intermission. Totally.
The intermission, yeah, Wish is just looking for more scenes to do with people and just like have those conversations and characters and get to know them more. Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. Any other stars or wishes? Okay. Well, this is a wonderful session. Thank you all so much. I'm going to wave goodbye to anybody watching the video. Goodbye, people watching the video.